Okay, so today we are going to talk about majorly two topics. The first topic will be, this batch service, Azure batch service. And the other topic will be your Kubernetes service. So to understand Kubernetes, we will quickly go through, with the this thing, containers. So we'll talk about containers today. We'll see how we can create a container, and then how we can start with Azure Kubernetes services, right? As of now, I'm skipping these two things because I was expecting that you guys will do the provision thing. So since everyone is not done with their assignment, I'm quickly skipping these two. These are pretty easy. I have already discussed this thing, Azure Disk Encryption for VM, but I will again help you when we talk about ARM templates and this thing. For now, we'll be talking about this portion of the of the syllabus, and then we'll quickly move to here. Right. So let me know if you have any concerns, because I would want everyone to be on same page. If I'm going to start explaining, how to create an ARM template and how you can provision a resource from that, it won't help you. Okay. So I'm excuse me. Give me a moment. Let me start with what is what is a batch. So do any one of you, do you know what is a batch? You might have heard of, we have to run this program as a batch. Can any one of you answer? Can any one of you answer what is batch?
Rahul this side. So yes, I think batch is something which we can submit, for execution in a bulk, like couple of 3 or 4 or 5, you want to run it in a sequential way. This is, I think, can be termed as a batch.
Absolutely correct, Rahul. So like Rahul mentioned, right? What batch is nothing. Batch is a job that needs to be rerun, 1,000 times, 100,000 times, and maybe on maybe different pieces of data on same sort of data. So this sort of job can be an example of a batch job. So if I have to give you example of batch job, I would say that a simulation, probably a weather prediction, or rendering a movie. So do you guys know that Netflix is totally based on AWS platform? The whole infrastructure, the whole the services, whatever we use in Netflix is on cloud. Everything on Netflix is on cloud. Even their DevOps is on cloud. So these sort of these sort of jobs where you are running a simulation, where you are running weather prediction, where you are probably rendering a movie. So you are basically working on different pieces of data, but at the same time. So lots of identical tasks can be running as parallel, and you can consider that as batch job, right? And what Microsoft Azure Batch gives you, Azure Batch service allows you to upload those batch jobs into the cloud, and and basically Azure manages the whole execution for you. Microsoft will manage creating the VMs, managing these hundreds, thousands of VMs if they are required to execute those jobs, right? So instead of having a single virtual machine that, let's say, that takes 48 hours to do a simulation and render a result, well, you can use an Azure Batch service, and I have done that done in a parallel, and perhaps in an hour or two, to have that answer instead, right? So to run a batch service, there are a couple of bare minimum requirement, right? You have to have a batch account. So and you have to basically use it, use that account to log into your Azure Batch service. And that specific batch account is basically separate from your Azure subscription, right? Any doubts so far?
No, there's no.
I have already created a batch. Yeah, someone is
One
asking.
thing, yeah, one,
Please tell me your name.
yeah, Mukesh this side. So one thing is related with the batch. When we are talking about the batch, it means a couple of the service we are going to run on the schedule basis. So, and there is a separate subscription for this. It means it's also providing a monitoring and then other failure management and all those in the batch, or just running the batch.
No, of course it will provide. What is the use of creating a batch account when you cannot monitor it?
Okay.
So this is how you create a batch account. You have to go to your home, create a resource. Then I have simply search batch service, and I'm creating a batch account, right? You have to choose your subscription. Mine for me is pay as you go. You have to create a resource group. Whatever resource group you would like to create. I have already created this resource group. Then you have to probably give your account name. So account name is basically it's a fully qualified name, which is including the region, right? You are seeing that since I have selected centrally India, so this is the fully qualified name. Whatever name I'll be giving .centralindia.batch.azure.com. Since I have already created a batch account here in in central India, I cannot do that. So let's move ahead and try to create in central US. You can see that it is highlighted here, right? Yeah, are you able to see this little heart in blue, right? All of them are grayed out, but this one is in blue, right? So this is basically letting me know that you have selected this, and you can, like I have shown you, you can change the location. So let's say I'm gonna name this batch as my awesome batch account. Okay. So another thing is, you have to see that you have to specify a storage account. What this is an optional thing, but this is a best practice. You should always specify an optional storage account, because whatever files, wherever you are, whatever issues you are doing, whatever troubleshooting you are doing, whatever operations you are doing in that specific batch, that has to be, if you are making any logs, that has to be part of your storage account. So I'm going to quickly create a storage account. I'm going to create a storage account. I'll say create new. I'm saying awesome storage account. And so this is already taken, right? It has to be unique across the region in that particular awesome batch storage. So this is not taken, right? So, and like it has said that that you have to make it a general purpose v2. I'm going to quickly select general purpose v2. Performance, I think I don't need. Performance should be standard. I don't need any data replication, data redundancy. So LRS should be fine for me. I'm quickly going to do OK, and it will create my, so if you can see, for best performance, we recommend to a storage account general purpose v2 located in the same region as associated batch account, right? So I have created the same central US. Now, did any one of you gone through the links which I have shared when when I was expecting you to this self-study link, right? I have asked you to study storage, right? I have given you this URL. This URL talks about how to create storage. Did you go through with that? Any one of you?
Yeah, Abhishek, yes.
Okay. So did you saw that there is an option of geo redundancy, LRS, ZRS,
Yes.
GRS, right?
GRS.
So can you quickly explain me, what is that? So basically, Azure, yeah, so Azure supports 4 types of replication services, right? One is basically locally redundant storage, where that is known as LRS. Then the other one is zone redundant storage, that is known as ZRS. And then there is another thing called geo redundant storage, right, which is GRS. There's also one, sort of replication service which is known as RAGRS, which is basically, read access, read only privilege. So the lowest level is basically local LRS thing, right? This is a replication format where the data is replicated to a storage scale unit, a collection of rack on storage nodes, right? Because it is multiple racks in the data center, and it provides 99.11 times 9, 9999999%, durability of objects, right? So I think you guys have created this storage. You should have asked me these questions as well. But I'm going to, quickly redundancy. You have to study this as well. It will give you the redundancy, details. What is redundancy in primary region? What is in secondary region? What is read access redundancy, and so on and so forth, right? Do read it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm not going to cover this thing in the part of this, because that is one, that is not part of your curriculum, and two, this should have been asked earlier. So coming back to batch account, we have to, we are creating this batch account. We have given everything, this AZ batch service RG. I have given the account name. I have selected the location. I have also created a new storage account, and then I'm going to move to advanced, right? So advanced basically, screen talks about a couple of settings. So what, identity gives you. Identity basically, helps you to, like you can see, right? It helps you to, manage identities with the help of AD. As of now, I do not have any AD, so I'm just creating it as none. So we do have a way of allocating resources to the pool. So whether the batch service manage the allocation of all those nodes, or whether it's going to be in our subscription, that is something which we are which we accomplish when we do this, right? Batch service, or you can go to the user subscription. Here you have to provide a couple of keys, your vault name, and your Azure Key Vault will basically do a couple of encryption and secrets, and whatever password you will be creating when it comes to using this pool allocation mode, those will be saved in your Key Vault. For now, I'll be selecting batch service only. Let's try and create tags. Tags I have already explained.
Pankaj,
Yes,
so this identity basically you selected none, and there is a system. So this batch service basically run from that account or what is the meaning of identity here?
Identity is same as Azure Active Directory.
No, that is fine, but what is the relation with the batch service? Is the batch service going to run from that account?
Sorry?
Like if I deploy my batch component, whatever batch service I'm going to deploy on this batch service, whatever we are creating. So this identity basically used to run this service.
See, what do you understand by identity? Can you please explain me that? And then I know that you know the answer of this question. You are just confused. That is why you are asking. So let's first you tell me, what do you understand by identity?
Identity means like in our normal VM servers, if I'm not going to cloud, So identity means where we have some accounts, and from that account, if we are going to deploy any our batch component on our that server, so that component basically run from some identity, maybe the administrative account. That account would have the administrative privileges. So similarly, when we deploy the services on our VM, so I'm just trying to understand the identity means, like, is it the
The
same?
concept is same.
Hmm. Okay.
Like I said, right, Pankaj, you know the answer. The concept is same. See, like you know, when you create a VM on your premises, you basically do. There are more or less two types of account, right? You know, auto user sort of account, and you know, a named user like admin account or a named user account, right? So same, you know, the simple is the concept is similar here in cloud as well. You know, identity gives Azure Batch provides you, you know, couple of account types when you are, you know, when you are trying to run the task, right? So there is a named user account where you can specify one or more named user from a pool when you create a pool, right? And each user is created on each node of the pool. So it will give you that sort of, you know, flexibility where you would like to run your batch service when it comes to, you know, trying to access your batch service via an AD when you are running it with
So
some default user.
so it means if I create any account under the Active Directory domain, so like we provide the security like permissions, like this permission, IS permission, XYZ permission. Similarly, we could assign a
You can though assign those, you know, access level permissions to the task itself.
okay, to like a batch service, like this account have a permission or privileges to run this my batch, this batch service, something
Yes,
like that.
yes. There is
Okay.
something called elevation level. When I'm going to show you the code, the C# code or the Java code, then you will probably understand that.
Okay. 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 Sure. Sure. Thank you.
I have not created any AD as of now in my this account. So that's the reason I have not, you know, selected identity. You can go ahead and, you know, do I think if I okay, so you can probably, you know, go ahead and try it. And if you have any questions, then do let me know. I'll help
Sure.
you.
Sure. Sure. Mhm.
I'm not going to create any tags here, right? Let's review and see that whether my validation is passed, and I'm quickly going to create a new batch account. Okay. So my deployment is, you know, in under progress. Let's you know, let's try to you'll okay. One more thing, if you would like to see in whatever resource you have been, you know, deployed, what and all operations are, you know, taking place, just go ahead and click this operation details, and you'll be able to see that, you know, what is the basically what is happening here. You know, we are creating it, and this is the state, this is the timestamp, how much time it will take, how to track it, what and all type of the resources which you have deployed in this, what is the subscription ID, what is the resource group, so on and so forth. Let's quickly click my deployment is succeeded. Let's go to resource, and you'll see that my awesome batch account is, you know, created. So after creation, you'll also see, you know, we have a URL that is used to access the batch account, right? So this is the URL, which, you know, https my awesome batch account centralus batch.azure.com. If you see this screen, doesn't this screen look like a VM virtual machine, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but there is a difference, right? What do you see in these sections when you are, you know, running in VM? It has different sort of, you know, information. These
Yeah.
monitoring details are different.
Different metrics.
Yes, these monitoring details are different. So, but when since you are creating a batch account, you can, you know, just go ahead and see that monitoring for, you know, a batch account is different from, you know, monitoring option from VM. We are going to see tasks, right? You know, fail task, nodes, how many, what is the state of the node. You can also see core minutes. You know, it has a basic, you know, service has consumed. You know, it's it's basically service per minute, right? We can also see. So that's there. If you would have created any, any tags, those tags would be displayed here. Then quickly go to quick start section, and you can see that you could use PowerShell. You can, you can also use batch, this whole batch thing from, CLI. Let me, just let's look at, some sample code. So are you able to see this second get started, and there is a link that Microsoft Azure batch sample code. Okay, so just click on that link, and it takes you to a GitHub page, and you can see that it supports a lot of, it supports a couple of languages like Java, Python, JavaScript, Node.js, and these are the products, right? And just let's take a look. I'm so sorry. Give me a moment. Let's probably try to read this README document. It will give us a lot of idea on, what is going on when you try to set up a batch job. So like I had said, right, to run a batch service, a batch account has to be a mandatory thing. So we have already created, but these are the link of, official Microsoft document where you can just go ahead and see that, how to create a batch account. Then you can also see that, you'll be able to see a couple of settings like storage account, through which, you'll be able to see the jobs which are needed, and it also tells you a little bit more about prerequisite, right? This is basically a prerequisite that you should be, aware whenever you are using, so it says that you're going to need a batch account. You're going to probably want to use Azure Storage to be able to see inside of those, of your storage account in order to upload the files and the jobs that are needed. Batch Explorer will tell you all about, in a visual way. You'll be able to, there is a dashboard probably, and you'll be able to see how your batch jobs are running. And as you can see, batch does support Docker. So there's a separate area to go if you want to, look at how batch supports Docker. So let's see, I would want, to probably depart into a little bit of code here. So I'm a .NET expert, so that is the reason I'm going to C# directory. Let's go to C# directory. And again, it has a number of, it supports a number of things here in your, languages here in your, this whole sample. You can try and go ahead and run your, execute your batch job with the help of Java, with the help of Node.js, JavaScript, Python, and related stuff. So, and you can see there are a number of, code, sample code available, so that, we can start to look at and probably play with them. Let's try and read this general info first. It is saying that to execute this, C# related sample, you need to have Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a mandatory thing, so you can download it from here. If you have basically these samples, they are not part of .NET Core, but you can change that thing via updating that CS project, and then you have to build, rebuild, and your dependencies, your binaries will be. This is very specific to the .NET Fellow. So but more or less the concept is same. Then you can also see, you have to basically how you can configure your credentials. There is a configuration. These details. There will be methods which will tell you about more about samples. So now I want to get into getting started, because that is basically a hello world sort of application from the from the batch perspective. Let's go to getting started. Go to hello world, and you can see there are like close to 3 files. So for everyone who doesn't know .NET, solution is basically a solution file in which all of the project dependencies are there. CS project is the C# project file, and you can see there are like only 3 files: settings.cs, settings.json, and program.cs. So I'm going into the program.cs, and we can see here it's a very short program, close to 165 lines of code. So if we look at the public class program in the main method, which is basically the startup when the program runs, what you are seeing that it's just basically set itself up and run this hello world in a asynchronous fashion, right? Till now, any one of you have any doubt? What I'm basically trying to do, I'm basically trying to explain the code here. So if you have any doubt, this is the time to ask questions. Okay.
Can you please show the settings, because it's here it is loading the configuration of the Azure, I believe.
Who is speaking?
Pankaj.
First rule of whenever you are trying to speak, Pankaj, please let me know your name. I'm not seeing you directly your face, and
Okay.
I'm still explaining you the file here. Let's wait for couple of minutes more. I will probably load this thing in my Visual Studio, and I'll show you how to execute it. So we'll do that, but I'm gonna let me quickly finish what I'm trying to do here, and then we can probably go ahead and see what is there in settings, right? That's fair, Pankaj?
Yes, yes.
Sure. Okay. So like I said, there is like some account settings, and of course when you are trying to run to answer your question, whenever you are trying to run anything from your local machine, you have to, of course you have to use load your account setting. Of course you have to load your batch account setting even to run this sort of information. So answer to your question, definitely it is loading your Azure account. You would be needing your Azure account details, your batch account URL, the keys of your batch account, and that sort of related stuff. So in the main method, basically, which is the startup method here, you see that it is basically calling, it is just doing some setting related, configuration related thing, and then it is basically calling this hello world async method, which is basically calling itself in asynchronous fashion. This is more of a asynchronous and synchronous is basically type of execution. This is more of a related to parallel programming or multi-threading, multitasking level of understanding the code. So this is so that is why you have to be at least you have to have 1 or 2 years of experience when you are trying to give this exam. You have to work as a developer, right? So that you can understand what the code is saying. So when we go to this hello world async, you can see that is basically it is executing couple of lines on console. Then basically it is asking for your batch credentials, right? And you have to. So we have created this batch account here. Overview. We have created, so it needs a URL, it needs the keys which you have, which you have it here, your batch account, your storage key, your primary access key, this sort of detail. Now, when you are configuring it, it basically, opening that account, it is basically adding some custom behaviors here. It is saying retry. There is something called retry policy provider, and it is basically retrying it for 5 seconds. So what is basically, what is this doing? It's basically, it's a very simple controller, right? So it's basically an orchestrator. So this is the job. right? So whenever you are trying to, it's going to create a job called hello world job, and it is going to submit what it, when submit what it wants to run, and then wait for a job to complete, right? So this is basically, letting you know that you have to wait for a job to complete. Then what's going to happen here, that I have just created my job. Like I said, it's basically creating a hello world job, and then it is submitting your job to, to execute. To, let's go ahead and see what is this submit doing. Submit is basically, submit is basically what it is doing. It's create a job. It is going to create a pool. It is going to create a pool so that, we basically have to create an app world pool, and get in the configuration settings. For that, we have a virtual machine size that we want. We have the operating system we want. We have the number of nodes we have want. This is the machine size. This is the operating system family. This is the node count. These all settings you have to, we have already know what and all sort of pool we want. So then, that this configuration follows, and you'll see in a second that it's the core of, whatever I'm showing it here to you. Basically, it's running a batch job that is a command line job that runs an echo command that just says hello world from batch hello world sample. So if you can see, it is basically, it's basically an echo command which is saying hello world from a batch world hello sample, right? So each of the virtual machines, when we when we look at the target nodes and stuff like that, it's going to basically run the commands, whatever echo command it is, there. It's basically, whatever target nodes we have defined, it's basically going to run that command, and it's just going to basically echo back a hello, and that is the purpose of this hello world, right? So that's that's pretty much how you are going to interact with batch job using the code. So what you can do is basically you can go ahead and download this whole sample file, or probably you can fork it with your repository. I have already, what I did, let me show you. I have already forked this to my, this is already forked with my repository, and I have Git desktop installed somewhere. So I have already downloaded this code, and I have also, we can just go ahead. If anyone of you is Java fellow. Hello.
Hi Nishima, Rahul this side. I know Java.
Okay, so you can, Rahul, we can go ahead and see how does it look like, in Java, right? You can just go ahead and explore Java related example, and you can see what and all it is going to do, right?
Sure.
You can just check it here, and you'll be able to do whatever activities you would like to do. For now, like I have said, that मैंने ये repository already fork कर लिया है, so मेरे local पे मैंने ये code डाल रखा हुआ है, right? This Azure batch sample, if I go to once it's show in Explorer, so this is how it is in my project, and I'm going to getting started, hello world, and this is how you open your solution in Windows Visual Studio. So that's how basically you have to, if you want to download it, you can download it. If you want to fork it, you can fork it, but clone it and basically start there in terms of starting off interacting with the batch. There are a number of samples. We just looked to the hello world here. Yeah, we just discussed what how this looks like, you know, how this hello world looked like. And there are a number of sample, you know, they extend, you know, in terms of complexity. So you can go ahead and check what is this pool and resource file is doing, and you can just simply go ahead and check, you know, what is this job manager does. So it'll basically, you know, help you to do that. So now, do you guys have Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio installed in your machine?
Yeah, Niloshana, Visual Studio Code is there.
So if you do not have, you know, if you do not have VS Code installed or Visuals, because, you know, to execute this this sample which I'm talking about, you have to have code or Visual Studio installed in your machine. So this is the link for you know, downloading it. Where is the chat? And Visual Studio Code is basically an open source you know, platform. You can download it. If you have a Mac machine, you can go for Mac. If you have a Linux machine, you can do it, you know, use it there. It's an open source, and it runs everywhere. I have just pinged you, everyone, the URL of how to download it. Now, let me see if this thing is running. I already have enterprise edition of Visual Studio installed in my machine, but there is some issue. Hmm. Okay, so let's do one thing. I won't be able to show you the demo of the code, how batch looks as of now. Let me, you know, show it tomorrow when we log in. I am basically, this is updating the my Visual Studio version. I had 16.6.1, so 6.2 is getting installed, and as of now today I won't be able to show you the demo, but what I'm going to do, I'll you know, post this class, I'll quickly, you know, complete this, and I can show you tomorrow first thing when we are logging in and, you know, discussing the class. So I guess that's the theory part, where this is, you know, how batch service gets executed. Someone was asking me to show the settings.json file, so I'm quickly going to show you. This is your settings.json file. You know, you are what type of resource you have created. This is your storage, the resource which you have VM size. Let's say you have target node 2. This is your pool family. This is pool ID is hello world pool. If you want to delete the job, so this will tell you how to, you know, what and all is required to delete the job. Then you have the settings.cs, and settings.cs basically interacts with you know, your setting file. Let me show you. Okay. I can show you the place from where you are, you would need to share simple task. For example, Microsoft. There is this also called account setting.json. Let me open it in Notepad++ so that you can see. So this is where you put, you know, your batch account name, your batch account key, your service URL, your storage account name, storage account key, and the whole, you know, qualified URL which you have created when you were, you know, when you have created your batch account. Like, you know, this is the URL, and these are the keys. Your name, your keys, your primary access key, your storage access keys, and your storage account name. That is where you, how you put it. So when I'll show you the demo, I'll update this JSON, and I'll probably, you know, I'll help you to execute a batch job, a hello world batch job, so that you can just go ahead and see how this thing works. So
Hey, Nisha, Rahul side.
yes,
So
Rahul.
if I have to do the same thing for Java, because I won't be able to understand the content one. So on that GitHub side in the README section, have they mentioned the step by step
Yes,
process
they
that
have.
if I
They have. So there are a lot of batch samples, right? You can go ahead and see this Java Node.js thing. You can, if you want to go ahead and see the set of scripts provided in getting started, you can just go ahead and getting started and refer to a step by step application where using these links. So all more or less, that's the beauty of GitHub folks. Whenever you pull, they pull any code, any sort of code, they would be basically giving you step by step instruction what to do. Like this is the page. It talks about what you have to have in order to run your batch job, right? So
yep.
more or less you'll find everything.
Okay.
And if you face any issues, I'm just one hi away, right? You can just ping me and I'll help you.
Okay.
So I'm not a Java expert, but I can definitely try with you.
Sure.
Okay, so this is basically one more thing. If you are planning for AZ204, this is basically not part of AZ204. This is part of AZ203. So since the AZ203 exam will want you to develop for Azure Batch, so this is basically a getting started GitHub project. This is the link of getting started GitHub project. This is basically in C#, and it talks about Batch. Platform is .NET, so it'll tell you how to execute and how to execute your sample getting started for this Azure Batch service. Let me write it. Getting started, sample for Azure. So just to let you know, if you are again, so now I'm quickly going to start the next topic. I was supposed to show you the demo, but I guess this was the problem. I was trying to troubleshoot and I couldn't complete the installation, the update. So I'll show you how to execute your batch job tomorrow. For now, we'll quickly move to your first this second part, create containerized solution. I'll talk about how you are going to create an Azure Kubernetes service cluster. Okay. So any one of you can answer apart from Rahul. Yes, Sanjay, you want to say something?
Yeah, Niloshima, regarding this batch account which you are showing, so like we can have a scheduling as well. I mean, scheduling the jobs. I mean, as a scheduler in Azure.
Scheduling a job is a functionality of Azure, yes. But why do you want to schedule a batch?
Yeah, because I don't want to kick it manually. Like I want to run it like once in a week, something like that, on a particular day and
Okay,
time.
can you do that in your on-premises VM? Can you schedule a batch job on your on-premises VM?
So using some schedulers, yes, we can do. Like I know like I am doing for like in my job actually I am doing like using a scheduler.
So
So I'm
then
asking like can we do?
the answer of this question should be yes. Yes, you can do that. Pretty much everything here, whatever you are doing, in your on-prem VM, in your on-prem Windows-based VM, right? Let's say Linux-based or Windows-based, you can pretty much achieve everything here. You just have to, find the option to do it.
Okay.
So like I said, right, if I'm saying that I'm running a weather prediction task, right? So each let's say each morning close to 4 a.m. I need my this batch processing to start till 6 a.m. so that I can provide that weather forecast data to my, let's say, subsequent news channel to display, right? So definitely I can schedule those things,
Okay.
right? Okay, so since most of the questions are answered by Rahul, I don't want you to answer this question. Can anyone know what are containers? Explain me what is container. Consider me a novice who doesn't know what is container. So you have to probably मेरे को आपको समझाना है.
Yeah, Nirusima. So Sanjay here.
Yes, Sanjay.
Yeah, so a container, I mean, in a layman term, is an application packed with all its dependencies. So I mean, like we don't pack like operating system and all that. I mean, only it's an execution environment and the application. It's packed into one.
Okay. Anyone else?
Akash this side. So container means just like app domain in our IIS. So just like same we called as container.
Absolutely. Both of you are correct. So let me try and explain, right? So traditionally, if you had to install application, the first thing that we had to do is create either a virtual machine or a physical machine, right? And once the machine is ready, you will then have the dependencies installed, and then the application sits on the top of that dependency. So we are creating multiple layers, starting from the application dependencies, then operating system, then finally, the hardware with the top on that, right? So now containers and a virtual machine have the similar resource isolation, right? Container and virtual machine provides similar resource isolation and the location benefits, but they function little bit differently. So do any one of you now this question is open to all, do you guys know what is the difference between containers and virtual machine? Why do you need to create containers if you already have virtual machine in place? And Rahul is going to answer that, I know. Yes, Rahul.
Because this side Mukesh, because the virtual machine for the each application or business layer you have to be OS level, right? Guest OS you have to do. But in container, like there's one operating system, on top of that there is a container engine which is running, and then you can run the multiple application. Yeah.
Can you repeat your answer again, Mukesh?
Yeah, I said in the VM you have the hypervision there, and then top of that, based on the different application and business, you have to be guest OS over there, right? But in comparison of the container, you have just top of the one operating system, you have the container engine running, and then you can run the multiple business and the application based on your requirement.
Absolutely correct. So to summarize your answer in just a single line, I would say that virtual machine provides you a way to virtualize hardware, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
And what does container do? Container basically virtualize your operating system with the help of container engine. So this is basically the comparison diagram which I wanted to show you the other day, but I couldn't show you. So this is how your container work, right? Like I said, we are creating multiple layers. Here you can see, this is your infrastructure, and hypervisor sit on top of it. Then you have to install guest OS. So here, and then the application and related dependencies, binaries, and libraries. So this color change is basically what it's an application which is basically deployed on a virtual machine, right? So you have to manage the guest operating system there. But here, when you have deployed that application in a container, you don't have to manage the operating system. It basically reduces one more step, from the whole process. They're just container engine. So Docker is a container engine which is already running on top of your operating system, and it will give you, an isolation sort of environment where you can run your application, right? So container will virtualize the operating system, like I said, and virtual machine is going to virtualize your hardware containers, right? So hardware. Containers are more portable and efficient. Like you can see here that container managing application like Docker is there in the picture, and it is basically managing your, multiple containers. Each container will then host those application and its dependencies. We have basically three set of different dependencies or binaries or libraries, but they are basically part of a single same virtual machine, right? They are. Give me a moment. Excuse me, guys. Just give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. I'm so sorry. So, like I was saying, here you can see, right, that multiple, Docker is managing multiple containers and their dependencies, but they are part of a same virtual machine, right? So we have an infrastructure, we have operating system, and we just containerize those things. So they are isolated with the help of container, right? And here you can see you have multiple virtual machine running on your. They are still isolated, but dependencies are handled easily when it comes to container, right? So it provides us the flexibility. We get a lot of flexibility in deploying and managing the application. Container also provided abstraction, at the application layer, that will pack your code and dependencies all together. Multiple containers can run on the same machine, and the best part with the container is that they are sharing the operating system kernel with other containers. Here, this thing is not happening when we are talking about virtual machine, right? Another benefit of advantage of container is that container take less spaces than virtual machine. Now, virtual machine are abstraction layers on the physical hardware, which can turn on, which can manage, turn on the servers into managed server. Hypervisor allows us to, multiple to execute multiple virtual machine on a single machine. And each virtual machine includes a full copy of operating system, like I have said earlier. And your application related binaries and libraries will take tens and hundreds of gigabytes altogether, and that will make your virtual machine boot process very slow. So that's one advantage over over virtual machine container have, is that containers are very quick. They handle several applications and require very less virtual machine and a few operating systems. So containers and virtual machine have similar resource isolation, but function altogether different, right? Like I have been saying it is efficient, it is very quick in running application, and it is so fast as Docker container is a standard unit of software that will package your entire application code and its related dependencies, and so that your application will run quickly and reliably on that specific virtual machine, right? So this is what I know about containers as of now. If you have any doubts, please do let me know.
Okay, decide what is the disadvantage of container? Is there any limitation where we need to think about instead of the containerization system, we can go for the VM?
Okay, so in how would you decide that you are going for a VM, right?
Uh,
This is a question for you.
So basically, like if my application is a seamless application running 24/7, and there are the heavy load on there, and I seen there are some application where they adopted the container, but most of the time they are also complaining the container is down and it's not easy to handle that, something like that. I heard that, so that's why.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, I heard in one of the application like they adopted these containerization things, and they also complaining because container is going down and they don't know how that is handled. So something like that. I want to understand too, that is there any
Have you tried deploying any container so far?
or not that?
Okay. So I would suggest you to go and deploy. So there are a couple of benefits. Like if I'm talking about Docker, there are a couple of benefits, right? Uh, the first advantage is, see, moving to cloud is what is the first advantage you want? You want your ROI to be less, right? You are
Right.
sorry, ROI to be more, and your cost should be saved, right? So Docker's first advantage is ROI, right? It if you need to generate steady revenue over the long term, this this Docker will provide you with less cost. You get to have rapid deployment, you get to have security. The configuration, it's how to configure Docker is very simple. I'm not sure if I can show you if I have Docker running in my machine. I have Docker installed in my machine. I can show you. This is actually, see, one cannot replace other. That was the whole benefit of me speaking 10 minutes a lot about containers versus virtual machine, right? That was the whole idea of me explaining why do we need virtual machine and why do we need container, right? If you think that you need an independent operating system for each and every application you are trying to run, you would definitely go for machine virtualization, right? But if you have like if you want simple simple and faster configuration, simple and faster uh, deployment, you would go for container. So it's I'm not saying that one can replace the other. It's like you need both your hands to work, right? You need your left hand as well and your right hand as well. But there are certain limitations. Yes, it has the data in the container. So there are times when container goes down. So after that, it needs backup and recovery strategy. Although we have several solutions for that, but they are not automated. So you have to configure them. You have to automate them, right? In comparison to virtual machine, another disadvantage of container is basically Docker container have less overhead, but not zero overhead. So if we run a machine, if we run an application directly on bare metal server, right, we get true bare metal speed, even without using containers or virtual machine. However, containers don't run at bare metal speeds, right? So that is also one, limitation. I won't say disadvantage, but this is a limitation, right? And especially when it comes to these containerized engine like Docker, there are a lot of features which are under progress. So it's basically like feature like self-registration, self-inspection, how to if you want to copy file from the host to container and make it an automatic thing, automated process. These things are still in development, right? There is one more downfall with container, especially with Docker, is that in general Docker is designed for hosting applications which run on command line. Though we have few ways like X11 forwarding by which we can make it possible to run a graphical interface inside a Docker container, but this process is very clunky. So applications that require rich user interface, container is not a good solution, right? So does that answer your question? How to choose between the two?
Yeah, that make more sense.
Yeah. So like I said, one is not the option, to replace the other. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Not now. So this is how Docker looks like. Remind me later. So Linux based thing, yeah. So this is basically for me. My Docker is as of now supported to Linux based operating system. So that is why the Kubernetes option was available here when I did right click. For now, I would like to use it for Windows. And you guys know that Kubernetes is not part of Docker for Docker desktop for Windows application. Do you know that? Do you guys know that or no? Do you guys know how Docker function? Do you guys know how container function on your local desktop? If you're going to install container, do you guys know how it functions? What it does? Okay. Now this I have this Docker desktop which is already running on my on my machine. If I go ahead and click on dashboard, you'll be able to see how my Docker desktop looks like. But again, um, let me just so that is basically that is not part of this syllabus, but since I want to give you a couple of assignments, so before giving you assignments I would want to let you know how to create a container. So I'm quickly going trying to create a container. Let's go to create a resource, Azure portal, and let's see containers. You see, you'll find container instances here. Okay. You can just try and do this. Okay, what is wrong here? And to container instances, you can go to container registry, you can go to Kubernetes service. So when I was saying that we'll be talking about AKS, so Azure Kubernetes service. This is this Azure Kubernetes service. This is AKS here, right? I can I can go ahead and select a container instance. So this is if you'll just look at this thing, you'll just see that it is also looking like a virtual machine, right? It has networking section, it has tagging, it has a couple of screen. So we'll have to subscription is this. I'm saying that I'm going to quickly create NS container RG. This is my new resource group. I'm saying that my resource group is created. Now, let's give it a container name, easy NS container. Right, so you can see there's a certain naming convention which you have to follow. And what I'm going to do is basically I'll select a region. Okay, West Central US is okay for me. I can go ahead and change the region to Central US as well, then you can if you would like to go and see whatever whatever type of image you want to probably load on your whatever the image source you would want to deploy would to use in that particular container. I can just go ahead and select image for a couple of from here. I okay, I can do ng index. I can basically do a nano server here. I can create a nano server, or I can simple hello world container. Let's do this. It's saying that I can quickly go ahead and change the size here. If I want, if I'm saying that I would want more number of cores, whatever the memory size I would like to use, and say, let's say I want to use 2. Again, I can update that. And let's say I would like to use 3 gigs of memory. I can, do that. Let's do, okay. Like I said, right, that there are specific feature availability. So see, there is no GPU available for Central US region. So if the moment I'll change my region, this GPU view is available. But this is in preview. What do you mean by preview? Do anyone of you know what is the difference between preview and the other? I mean, if you are able to see, this memory is not in preview. So what does this Azure portal tries to explain you? What is it is saying that it is for preview. This is for preview release. Can anyone of you explain me? Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, Nirosima. So I don't know about this.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So
Yeah.
Azure, what is basically Azure doing, right? Previews are made available to you on the condition that you agree to those terms of use which supplement to your agreement governing use of Azure. But what is basically preview is basically pre-release feature, right? It's a pre-release feature. It is not it is not part of the whole package. It's basically preview is so there are couple of types of preview. Preview can be a preview, a beta release, or public preview. So private preview. So yeah, basically it is nothing. It's just to obtain your feedback. Azure offers you some services evaluation के लिए only. So that is how they say that okay, this is in preview. जाओ आप test करो, आप इस्तेमाल करो. अगर आपको कोई bug मिलता है तो आप हमें get back to us and we'll fix that. It's like they are asking us to do testing on their behalf. So, and since with like zero costing, there is no cost involved. You don't get anything if you find out a bug in preview version. So that's how preview works. Okay. Where were I was basically trying to create a container. I have updated this. I am not going to change anything in the this thing, networking thing. I'll just quickly give my DNS name. Does anyone know what is a DNS? I know the full form, so don't explain me what is DNS. I just want to know, consider me a layman and just explain me what is a DNS. You don't know? Okay, so I'm not going to explain you what is DNS. Go Google it. Okay. So in the networking section, I can choose public, private, or none. Public will give us, my container instance, a public IP address. Private will allows us to, choose from an existing virtual network. So this is not available for Windows container, by the way. And none option will neither create a public IP nor, on virtual, virtual network. You have to access the container specifically using your command line interface, right? What I did, I just gave a DNS name label. This is the same name of my, as my container. So, and you can see that by default 80 is, this 80 port is open. But, but in production environment, you have to, select a number 4, 4.3 for DTP traffic over SSL. So that particular depends on you, whatever, requirement you have. Because this is a public instance, I would like to have a public IP. So that is the reason I've just selected, public here. And I have given a DNS here. I'll just do, my web instance here and in advance. I'm saying, so this is you can see here, there is something called restart policy. So what is the restart policy? Docker, give me a moment, guys. Okay, so I was talking about what is a restart policy. So Docker provides a restart policies to control whether your containers stopped automatically when they exist, or when Docker stop, or when Docker stops, right? Restart policies ensure that linked containers are started in the correct order. Okay. Any doubt so far with restart policy? Any doubt so far with restart policy?
So it's like if there are like more than one container, and then restart policy will come into picture.
See, I'm saying that restart policy to control, it's basically, a configuration setting where you are controlling your container. So where you are checking that it is stopping automatically, or whether probably, it is stopping when Docker is stopping, right? Or probably, if you have any linked container associated to your container, so you are probably, you want, let's say you have 3 containers and you want container 1 to be started first, then container 3 to be started, then container 2 to be started. So you can probably define those policies there, right? So what I want to do, whenever you are running your containers on local, this recommends that you should use the restart policies, and avoid using process manager to stop the containers, right? So you can select failure, you can select always, you can select never, ever. So what does it mean? It is saying that in case you have the restart policies as on failure, always, or never, it means that you can never leave to default at this time. This policy has to be attached. You can also have the environment variable here. If you want to learn more about restart policy, you can just go ahead and see what is it saying, right? So like I'm saying, if I'm getting that I'm selecting on failure, what does it say? It says that it will restart when your container fails. If I'm say that it always, so whenever it is failed, just exit successfully, it has to restart the container. And whenever you are saying that never, it means that you are never going to restart the container. So this type of configuration related policies you can set here. You can also give environment variables. Let's say the path environment variable. So I guess path. I guess if you are a Java developer or a .NET developer, you know what are environment variables, right? So you can provide your environment variable. These environment variable, these path environment variable are very important, right? Because every binary looks at the path environment variable, especially in Windows environment, right? You also can have a temporary environment variable which will take you to a temporary folder. So if your application demands a specific environment variable to the time, then you may want to look at the specific type of product documentation, and you can add those environment variable here, the key value pair, right? So I don't need anything as of now. So I'll just leave these things empty. I'll quickly go to tags. I will not assign any tags, and I'll just go to review and create. Let me tell you again that creating a container instance is, is basically, this was a prerequisite for learning AKS, for understanding AKS. So the syllabus is basically how to deploy Azure Kubernetes service, right? It is not, it is not part of this whole exercise. So if you know that, you have already done that, this is not necessary. But I just wanted, each every one of us to be on same page. So that is why I have created, this container instance here. So let's go and create one. The moment I'll create it will take a couple of minutes to deploy, and you can go ahead and check what is happening, what happened during that, right?
Okay.
Any doubt so far? Any question? If you have any question, please ask me. So if everyone is okay, can we take like a quick 10 minutes break? I've been speaking like for more than, I guess, an hour, and my neck is hurting. Can we take a 10 minutes quick break?
Yeah. Yes. Anujma.
Because in the meantime, it is getting deployed. I'm anyways going to start another new topic, which is Azure Kubernetes Service Cluster, AKS cluster. So I just want to take like 10 minutes ka break, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you so much. Hello everyone. Am I audible? Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, I can see you. Okay, this side.
So you saw that, right? I have created a container. My resource has been, you know, deployed, and this is my container resource group. This is the status. My operating system is Linux. This is the IP address. So if I give you this IP address, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know how to access a Linux operating system via PuTTY, or
Correct.
you will be able to, probably see this my container, and you will be able to probably, execute something in my container. But I'll have to delete it because I'm anyways on pay as you go mode. So I don't want to pay for the resources which I have not been using.
Even you stop, there is will be charging will be happening. Like there are the
Yes,
services
yes.
stop. If you,
It's not about the charges. It is about the the allocation of the resource.
oh, okay.
It's not about the execution time. It's always about the allocation of the resource.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
So like I said that we are going to talk about Azure Kubernetes Service Cluster, right? Have any one of you worked with Kubernetes before?
Yeah, Sanjay, yeah, I have basic idea.
Can you let me know what is that?
Yeah, Kubernetes basically is a software to maintain the containers. So like if we have a number of containers, I mean to maintain uh, the load balancing among containers and to keep monitoring of all containers, we use Kubernetes. And I mean alternative for Kubernetes can be like Docker Swarm, which is a Docker product. But as of now, like in market, the Kubernetes is more popular.
You know why Kubernetes is more popular? It does not
Mm,
like it is not a technical question, but do you know why it is more popular than Docker Swarm? Because it's a Google's product. They have
mhm.
created Kubernetes, and what they do, they made it like they have released it on general availability. So AWS is also using Kubernetes. Google itself is using, and now we are talking about we are studying Azure, but we are talking about a service which is of Google, right? AKS, Kubernetes service, right?
Right.
So, you can also use Kubernetes with the with Terraforms as well. Someone has asked me that if I'm going to take Terraforms, in this class. So earlier, I guess when I was having a demo, but you can use this AKS service with Terraforms as well.
Yeah, Rahul this side. I asked that question. That's
Yes, Rahul. So what was your question again? By the way, you wanted.
yeah. Basically, in my project, I have to deploy my application on AKS. Currently, we are using Docker. But as per our organization's guideline, I cannot go ahead to portal Azure directly. I have to use Terraform to deploy everything. So I was just asking Jan if you have anything on Terraform for me to learn because I don't know Terraform.
So I guess you pinged me on WhatsApp, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I have a couple of resources. I'll ping you separately on WhatsApp. So that you can just go ahead and see. Refer those resources.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we were talking about Kubernetes service, right? So there is a okay. Yeah, let's probably create a AKS cluster, and let's see how it looks when we are creating. So Azure Kubernetes service is a managed Kubernetes services for Azure. If you go create a resource section, we'll see that container has its own section, right? If I go to containers, then you can see, Azure Kubernetes service, right? So we are we are also going to like we have already covered, you know, container instances, right? How to so now what you can do, your assignment, though I'm not sure how many of you will do that, but you know, you can create a container and probably deploy a single page application in that container, a web app based container, something like that. And you know, if you just basically, you know, try and use these things as much as possible. And because the moment if you're not doing demo, you'll 100% forget, and that's a guarantee I can give you. I'm like 200% sure that if you'll not do a demo, as in when you are studying a topic, if you're not doing a couple of hands-on there, you won't be able to remember everything. Like I have mentioned that this is a single cloud platform. We are all talking about Azure and Azure only. What if you move to, you know, if your organization says that we will implement such so these many services in Azure and these many services in GCP or in AWS or probably Alibaba Cloud, then what will you do? The process is altogether same. Just click, click, click. You just need to know what has to be done where, right? So, like I've already, you know, mentioned, containers are sort of a midway point between, you know, purely infrastructure as a service, like a virtual machine solution where you completely control the environment, and the web apps and platform as a service, right? So it's basically a midway point where between web apps and, you know, PaaS and IaaS, right? In PaaS, where, you know, you don't control the environment, if you remember. So if you have any web apps solution, you package up your code, you zip that up, put that into an Azure service, and Azure will deploy and run it as it, you know, how Azure wants to run it, as Azure sees fit, right? So you can set a number of instances, you can put into an app service plan. But what does a Kubernetes server do, right? Kubernetes instance is basically a way for you to package your code, and the package itself contains all of the dependencies, everything that it needs to run, right? So if you're deploying your code as a package into Azure, the best part with Kubernetes is that it's open source. It is like I have told you, it is invented by Google, but it is available on all major cloud platforms. So if you create code for a Kubernetes service, you can deploy it to Azure, you can deploy it to GCP, you can deploy it to Amazon Web Services. But that is not, you know, something which is true for applications like web apps or server functions, Azure Service Fabric, or function and logic apps, right? So those sort of apps, app-based, functionalities are fairly unique to Azure, right? So the other benefit of this is that it's very easy to set up, and you can, you know, get it up and running with some sample code. So I'm telling you, in my experience, it took me close to a day and a half to get your local developer desktop up and running. Compile where you have all the where you have to install everything, compile all of their projects, among installing your Office and everything. And if you want to get your full environment going, so irrespective of you have a lot of very good documentation, but just think that how long it is going to take to download all that stuff and get everything compiled. But if your organization, or if you were using a containerized solution, you would be able to pull the container out of the container repository, and it would have everything that is needed in that container. You need not to do a lot of extra installs and get all the DLLs and register it with Windows registry. So if you will go ahead and see, if you just look into this, you can just see that it is all it also looks very similar to creating a virtual machine, like we did in batch service, right? So we choose our subscription, we have to create a new group. I have only pay as you go. आपके पास में you may have enterprise plan which you are using within terms of your organization. You might have a free plan, or you might have a MSDN subscription. So on whatever options you are getting, you just choose your subscription. I'm quickly going to create a new resource AZNS okay. And I have to give my cluster a name. So I'm going to call this new cluster. So AZNS new cluster. Right. You can also see, but there is a naming convention here. So this Kubernetes cluster service need not to be be unique in the whole region. It just have to be unique in this particular resource group, right? Let's change the location. Why I'm changing the location, because most of the services, most of the features are available in central US, East US, South US. Very less features are available in India. So we'll quickly go to central US. And I'm saying this is my Kubernetes version, right? So by default, this gives me the highest version, right? So this is the stable release. These release are not the stable release. I can, if you have deployed, if you have developed any solution which needs a specific version, you can choose it from here, right? And let's let it be whatever it is. You can probably okay, so there is something called primary node pool. So what is primary node pool? Primary node pool is basically nothing, but it's just it gives you the number and size of the nodes that are primary in your particular node node cluster, in your cluster, right? So what you can do here, I'm saying that the node size is DS standard DS2 version 2. You can go ahead and change the size. It is basically giving you the what and all option you are. So in this cluster, it's basically it is same as deploying a virtual machine. So in this region, central US, you can and the node counts are this, right? I can have 100 nodes, right? But for this region, I cannot have, I guess, more than 5 or 6 probably. Yes. So the maximum node quota is 5, right? Because I have this pay as you go subscription, so I can just quickly go ahead and 10 cores application. So when I'm saying that, so it's basically 2 CPUs per node, right? Let me decrease it here. Any doubt so far? This is pretty much simple. I'm not doing any any rocket science here. So please do let me know if you have any questions.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So so whenever you are managing cluster using an API, you are going to use this, right? I'm just going to, this is my cluster name, and I'll go to node pools and, sorry, let me go to one again. Yeah, I'm in the correct street, right? So why do you need, right? Why do you need to give these information? Because you would want to give Azure the instruction that this is basically my my size of the node, and I would want 3 nodes to be deployed, right? So I'm saying DS2 version 2 means this is DS2 is basically a 2 core CPU. If you have gone through to my to this drive, I have also provided you a VM cheat sheet. Did any one of you, had a chance to look into that cheat sheet? किसी ने देखा था क्या ये cheat sheet?
Yes, Nirosima, I looked into it.
This is very handy, when it comes to understanding these nodes, understanding these things. And ये हो सकता हो थोड़ी पुरानी हो, because I have created it long back. So I'm just trying to give you the whatever resource I have, so that you just pass your exam if you are targeting for exam, or probably if you have any doubts. And if you have any doubts regarding these, please do ask me. Right, so I'm going to node count, next node pools. So I'm going to, node count is 3, operating system is Linux. This is my primary node pool. You can just go ahead and see that what is node pool, how to manage these node pools, right? I'm just adding this into the self-study thing. How to create and manage node pools in AKS. Go ahead and check this URL. Let me do it Docker. Yes, taking a lot of resources. Okay. Here. So what is virtual node, right? Do any one of you know what is virtual node? Okay, virtual nodes are basically provides you the scale in and scale out functionality in Azure container instances, right? We have discussed about the scale in and scale out functionality. So I don't want virtual nodes to be enabled. You can just go ahead and read that. If you want a fast burst scaling, you would need you have to probably enable it, but I don't need it. I don't need any scale sets here. This was supposed to be part of your assignment, but let me, I won't be explaining you scale sets. I will just, give you an assignment so that you just go ahead and see what is scale sets. You have to create a VM scale set. Virtual machine scale set with AKS it's similar concept. Scale set basically, will create a cluster, and that will use your particular scale set instead of that specific virtual machine for those nodes, right? So if you have a auto scaling, if you have implemented horizontal scaling somewhere, so this is a good feature. Though a couple of days back I could see that virtual scale sets were in preview. I'm not sure whether they still are in preview or not. I'm going to make it or leave it default, whatever it is, right? Then you go ahead and in the authentication thing, you just see that there is something called a service principal, right? An authentication method. So what is basically, service principal is basically the account under which the nodes are going to run. So by default here, it's going to create me a brand new account, right? It's a default service principal account. It will under my Active Directory that will be managed by Azure, and that account will be assigned to this specific node cluster which I am creating, so that I can basically go ahead and configure very specific security settings for this, right? And I can just see that whether I would want to run it as administrator or not. What I can do is the other thing is this RBAC thing. If you would have done Active Directory is assignment, you would have known what is RBAC. So just go ahead and explore. You can just Google it and just say, how to create an RBAC based AD. So you can see that. For now, I can keep it enabled, I can keep it disabled, depending upon my need, right? I just don't want to touch it, the default options, let them whatever they are, right? Let's do networking. I don't want to use any, and I don't want to change anything. DNS name prefix is something which I guess basically, it's going to be used as fully qualified domain name. So this is going to be used as fully qualified domain name. If you want to add load balancer, you can go ahead and for now it needs a standard settings of standard network setting for a load balancer. If you want to add a network policy, you can check that. If you want to do any HTTP application routing, you can go ahead and do that. I will not touch this networking thing. Let it be, but however it is, right? Let's go to integration. So, under integration, you can see that there is an option called Azure Monitor. We'll talk about Azure Monitor. Monitoring is enabled as of now. I will not touch it. So basically, it is going to create me, when we'll talk about monitoring and logging in subsequent, lectures, we'll see that how you would, use how then probably you will be able to, map how monitoring comes here in picture, right? Again, it will give you the in short, in a nutshell, it basically talks about the health of your cluster, the performance of your cluster, the overall performance of your cluster, right? Next to tags, I can create tags, but I don't want to. Let's do review and create. Just creating my Kubernetes cluster now. I have one node pool. There are no virtual nodes. Virtual scale sets are enabled. The authentication method is service principal. It'll take a minute or two to validate. Validation has been passed. Let's do create. I guess it is going to take a couple of minutes. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, please ask. जब तक ये resource create हो रहा है. Abhishek, Akash, Mukesh, Pankaj, Rahul, Sanjay, anyone. If you have any questions, please.
Yeah, Linusima, Sanjay here. So like we saw, like we created a container, right? So my question is Azure also using Docker to containerize the application, or it has its own service?
I won't answer that. I know the answer. Do you want me to answer, or do you want to just go ahead and check that?
Yeah, I can check that. I feel like it's their own service. Just wanted to.
what does Docker do? Docker is basically a containerized container engine, right?
Right.
And easily migrate your apps to Azure. With the Docker deployment on Azure, you'll be able to run modern and traditional, Linux on Windows app with enterprise grade security support and scaling, right? So yes, Docker is there. More or less, see, Docker is it's the in double quotes, and in bold. Docker is the container engine, which is basically used everywhere. So when people talk about containers, they don't ask you container. They say that, have you worked on Docker? They don't ask, have you worked on containers, right? And, and let's say if you get any, if you get any job interview details or interview calls, so in JD may they won't be saying that, have you worked on any containerized solution? They'll say, have you worked on Docker? At least, for me, it's like that. So it is taking ages. So it's like that,
Yeah, I mean, it is the go-to software to containerize an application.
Yes. It's very famous. Like you can what you should do, you can probably deploy a Docker based web application into Azure apps, and then you'll see the whole process that can be done. You can also you can also create a single page application and use that to deploy in a Linux server. That sort of things you can do. As and when we will be moving, it is taking a lot of time. Okay, it's like 3 nodes. Whole ticket. It'll take some time. Let's wait for that. And we can see my new cluster is in progress. Any other question? Will it be okay if I wrap up this class by 6 today? I guess I have a lot of things. I have explained a lot of things. So I would want you to do, quickly quickly discuss whatever I have, I have been talking about. So will it be okay if I just wrap up today at 6, and so that, you just can do a quick practical, and then we can meet tomorrow at the same time, and we can talk about it if you have any questions or anything.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Rahul, let me know. I'll probably ping you on WhatsApp, and let's see. If you have any, if you are not able to solve your issue by yourself, ping me on WhatsApp, and we can have a probably team viewer session. I can log in your machine and see the issue. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Abhishek, if you also face any difficulties, just ping me and we can have a quick call, and we can discuss about that. And even any one of
Yeah, I have couple of doubts. So,
Okay.
but that will require sharing. So we'll connect later.
Yeah, sure. Let's do this, in some time. Let me see. I'll just check what and all issues you guys are facing. So this is basically, this is how you create this EKS based container. It is taking a lot of time, so let's wait for a couple of more minutes. I guess it should take 3 to 10 minutes. Generally, it is taking 3 to 10 minutes depending upon the nodes of whatever nodes I would wanted to use there. Let's wait for a couple of more minutes and see how much time it will take, and then we can basically conclude the class. Okay. So this is how your cluster looks like. He'll give you, I have one node pool. What are the tags, the subscription? What is the resource group? I can go ahead and monitor my container using Monitor Insights. I can go ahead and logging, view logs inside my containers using Azure Monitor. You can just go ahead and probably explore this. That what does it do? What does container do? How can you can edit a container? How can just you can add tags? This is how you add tags, right? This is how you add tags when you have already. How many node pools are there? So since in my case I have one node pool with 3 nodes, right? If I can upgrade it or not. This is how this is how you upgrade your Kubernetes version, right? This will help you if you have any version specific requirement with your application, right? Okay, so you can see right here, you can see that I have my like 3 nodes which DS2, so two CPUs, 7 gigs of memory. So I have totally 6 cores and 21 gigs of memory. So what how you should see it, that I'll be paying for these whole whatever the whole cluster, whatever the capacity I have chose, you know uh, I have to pay for each and every resource I have used on Azure. So for my this cluster instance, I'll not I'll not. You can just go ahead and see in the Azure pricing calculator. I have already shared the URL here, so you can just see and identify how much you will be paying for these sort of requirements, right? And there is something called ARM templates. So we'll be talking about those ARM template, but you can see that these are the Azure Resource Manager template, right? I have already shown you one template where I have shown you the JSON file in the last lecture. So that's how you deploy, and you use these ARM templates to deploy basically bulk of resources. If you would like to automate some process, you would just go ahead and deploy. You can add it to library. So this is the AKS template. And just go have to be the section AKS template for Central US. Save. And if I just go to templates here, you can see that this is what I have. This is my template which I have created, right? This is being shared with me. If you would like to share it, you can share it with people in whatever roles you want to give in my in my RBAC, in my AD, right? Something like that. So we'll be doing a couple of demos again tomorrow. We'll be seeing how this batch is going to run using Visual Studio. We'll also see how to deploy your services in this thing. How to deploy your AKS cluster, and then we'll quickly go to your Cloud Shell and learn how to get credentials, how to run a couple of commands, like kubectl command. I guess if you guys have worked on this thing Kubernetes, you might have heard of kubectl command. What does it do? Okay.
Okay, Narasimha.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I hope that आज की class was fruitful. If you have any question, please feel free to reach me. And why I'm saying this again and again, that because I would genuinely want you guys to pass this certification, irrespective of whether whether you are trying to give or not. So post this, post these classes, I'll try to give you, couple of dumps, couple of questions so that you can just go ahead and I'll also help you if you have any question, in creating these resources over Azure. So please feel free to reach me. Okay. And if you have any feedback, you can ping me personally if you have any feedback. You can if you would like to ping it on the DevLab Labs Alliance or this WhatsApp group. You can please do that. Your feedbacks are more important for me, so that it will help me in in this whole process. We are just on our third class. There are a lot of classes which we need to do, right? So please feel free to reach me. Please feel free to reach me in case of you have any questions, in case you have any feedback. Okay. Let's talk tomorrow. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Noshima.